how has your relationship with gaming changed during the pandemic, if at all? And do you think the conversation around gaming has changed? Anyone can go first.
I'll jump in if you like.
Yes.
Well, for me, it's pretty much stopped my gaming entirely because I'm spending all day looking at screens at exactly the same distance. The last thing I want to do is look at another one, which is a problem for me professionally because I kind of have to play games to know what's going on. But it's really raised the bar for me in terms of, like, it's not relaxing to look at a screen. So, but I think what's really changed is not so much attitude towards gaming. What I hope is attitude towards mental health. I think for a lot of people, mental health was something that happened to other people. That was something, and they kind of knew it was bad, but it's like, oh, low blood sugar. If you don't, that sounds bad, but it's only if you've had it that you really know what it is. I think when people talk about stress and mental health now, loads more people have a sense of what that means, even if it's a very mild version of it, even if it's just, this is hard. Like, even if it's really comfortable, even if you're physically really comfortable and you've got all sorts of advantages and privileges, this has been a really hard year. And realizing, and you start thinking about people who are a bit less lucky than you, maybe don't have the physical advantages or the, as pleasant an environment to be in. And I think there's just that bit, that there are some more opportunities for sympathy or empathy of, oh, wow, it's this hard for people all the time, whether there's a pandemic on or not. I'm hoping it changes attitudes very slightly about isolation, loneliness, stress, about checking in on people, about realizing just that thing of, like, everyone swore, oh yeah, well, we'll do loads of Zoom calls and stuff. Did you check on in all your friends you wanted to? Or did you feel kind of depressed? Like, is that going to be someone's first example of, oh, that's why people with depression don't always get a lot done? Like, that could be their first taste of it. I'm hoping there'll be a bit more, maybe not compassion is too strong a thing, but it will just seem a bit less alien and other a concept for more people.
I totally get that. I feel that's one of my kind of big things from this year is that idea of empathy, because it's an unprecedented, unique situation, but in terms of something that's happened that, like, you can go anywhere in the world, well, when we can go anywhere in the world, and say, like, the pandemic, like, people know what you're talking about. Like, everyone has gone through this. So I totally get what you're saying about the idea that if you are someone that might have thought that's something that happens to someone else, this idea of mental health or struggling with mental health, it happened to you. And I feel like I'm sort of in that category. Not that I would necessarily dismiss mental health as an issue, but I think it was mentioned, Sachin, you mentioned earlier on about the language for it. And I think I was certainly someone who didn't have the language for it. I've been forced to get a dictionary this year and try and figure that out. So I think that idea of that empathy of everyone being in the same situation. But then the thing I like about video games, one of the many things, is that because you play a story, and we're talking about, like, games as a story, and you being sort of a narrative designer, is that you're playing someone else's story, and there's that inbuilt sort of empathy, I guess, that inbuilt empathy in you're playing someone else's story, that chance to see from someone else's perspective. So, my idealized world post-pandemic is that idea that, video games can allow us a chance to view things from someone else's perspective and actually take that as a credible view, experience in life, because of what's happened with the pandemic and having to validate, like, other people's experiences.
But man, that's just fiction. Like, books, movies, and TV. Like, if they weren't already doing that, would an interactive experience?
I think the only thing I'd say with, like, video games is because you have that, like, agency as the character, you have to play whatever actions have been taken. You have to sort of set those in motion. I guess that's the difference that I would see versus other fiction.
Yeah, I would just highlight that the difference in agency. I'm someone that can watch horror films, but cannot play horror games because it goes from watching someone do the stupid stuff to being the person that is doing the stupid stuff. Like, the video game forces you to go down the dark corridor when you're like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? But when you're watching a movie, you're sitting there like, you're silly. You're probably gonna get murdered now. And the video game makes you do this really uncomfortable thing that you don't want to. And similar thing in something like The Last of Us, it forces you to make a decision that you wouldn't ordinarily make, or it feels like you're making that decision, but it's not you. It's that character. You are no longer yourself. You are them, and you must play like them. And it also, like, some people use that opportunity to be like a really bad person, when in real life they're not. They might be the nicest people, but you know, in video games, I suppose the other equivalent would be tabletop games like D&D, that give you that opportunity to be not you. Whereas, like, reading a book or watching a film or a show is quite passive, right? You're following along. You're more of a fly on the wall. Sachin, did you have your answer ready?
Yeah, I mean, just to tag on to what you were saying, is that Last of Us Part 2 is exactly what I was thinking about when you were saying sometimes games make you do what you don't want to do. The entire final stretch of that game, I was like, I don't want to do any of this. Why am I doing this? And it kept on making me do some horrible, horrible stuff. But also, you know, being able to explore different characters is something I've seen a lot more in terms of people writing about how it helped them with identity exploration and identity formation, especially like tabletop RPGs, but also games which let you choose the type of person you are. Is that, say you're trans and you're not in a community that's very accepting, and that can be a good way to sort of feel out, you know, in a video game or in a game, you know, what it is to take a different identity, for example, and try on different identities and see what feels right. It's sort of like playtesting different things. Now, how my gaming has changed during the pandemic. I was made by the NHS to stay in a hotel at the beginning of the pandemic because the rest of my house were isolating so that they could keep me working. So I was in a different area. Everything was closed. People were really observing the lockdown at that time. You know, the streets were empty. So it felt dead. And all I had was my Switch with me, and it really helped me to have Animal Crossing. It truly is the game of the pandemic. It gave me something to do every day. It made me relate to my friends. We kept up with the stock market, and I felt like I was achieving stuff with building up my island. I also got into a Picross or Nonogram game on my phone, just for like idling away stressful moments. But again, I have to be careful. I don't, like Ed with Football Manager, not get too bogged down in it. And then just in terms of having people around me, I'm quite an introvert. I don't go out. I don't really meet people. But this pandemic has really got on top of me anyway. Like, it turns out that you do need to see people, and to some degree. So I resubbed to Final Fantasy 14. Not that like I play with people on Final Fantasy 14 or anything, but it was just fun hanging around Limsa and just see people running around, to have that feeling of people being around. And just a few days ago on Saturday, I bought Monster Hunter Rise, and me and two of my friends started a WhatsApp group, and we just update each other on what we're doing, and we'll be playing multiplayer soon. So, just keeping in contact with people has really helped me.
Mm-hmm. I can relate with, just being on Final Fantasy, just so that you can see people running around. VR chat. I don't even have VR. I just jump on it on desktop. But like the proximity, like that you get with it, it's just like, it was really like, oh, I feel like I'm in a bar. I love it. Can't relate. There's just a comment in chat that I wanted to pick up on when we were talking about the agency of games. And it was, yes, games have more agency and can reprogram your neural pathways, which makes them helpful or dangerous, depending, which I thought was just a really interesting comment.
Anything can reprogram your neural pathway. Me being on this chat right now is reprogramming my neural pathways. Your brain is plastic. It just changes no matter what you do.
Yeah. Definitely. So we'll answer some of the questions that everyone has been posting in the chat a bit later on. But Amiad, your answer.
Yeah, I mean, listening to what the panel has to say, I could honestly just say ditto, right? I mean, rather than repeat it, I think I felt, maybe my example is different, but very, very similar. I think I'll turn the question a little bit and not talk about my own personal experience and just talk about how video games have changed now since all of this. And I think it relates to what I do every day, which is dealing with digital health and digital health technologies. And the pandemic has boomed digital health 5 years into the future. And that's not showing any signs of slowing down, right? So that's really any app that has to do with that you use on your phone that has to do with your health, whether it be exercise, mental health, something more clinical. And with that, the conversation of games has gone right along. And the experts are looking at how can games be used to do what they do so well, which is to keep people playing and to engage a player or a user or a patient, right? And put that into the digital health world to get people engaging with their health more and more. We talked about Ring Fit a little bit. I think that's a great example. Now you have, new FDA pathways specifically for games as treatments. I saw, I think, Physical Folk, I think, even put it in the chat before, that there's now a game for the treatment of ADHD in children that is now a alternative to the pharmacological options that we have, like Ritalin or Adderall. These are things that are continue to being worked on, and now, with the help of the push in the pandemic, that are becoming more and more popular, and you'll see will become more projects, more games dealing with health will see the light of day. So I think that's really exciting in a way that the industry's changed a bit.
Hey there, I'm Nigel from mayamada. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other great videos we have on the channel. You can also join the GamePad Discord and check out the next event at gamepad.events. We'll see you soon.